All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another session. As you can see on the screen currently, this is exactly where we at. Get my throw on this one. But with the whole situation right now at hand, I mean, it is a lot, and at times these are certain things that you just kind of, is a sensitive subject. But you're always gonna have your opinion on the subject matter. But overall, we already know. Um, we know that things are very much um, terrible when you dissect, you know, everything about the entirety of this, a whole shebang. But it's just interesting how Piers Morgan, have his panel and have discussion of certain subject matter. So as for me, I just wanted to kind of dive into this one and check it out. But anyway, yeah. So this is about this whole thing. But let's get right into the video. But before we do, make sure you hit that subscribe. Make sure you tap that notification. Join the family, man. Welcome to the Bricks family. If you're new here, if you're already here, hey, thanks for stopping by once again. I appreciate it. It's always love. You know what I mean? So we gonna get right into this. I just want to hear and see what they're talking about. All right, give it a second here. Let's see. Let's run this, man. It's
Hopefully
live,
he'll be
by the
coming
way.
home.
Right?
We do not think that he should spend another day in jail. Not at all.
White men like Trump need to be banished.
If you're Donald Trump, why, if you reread those comments, should you contemplate a potential pardon?
We went to them with questions and they refused to answer. That is very strange.
What we have here is just a black female Alex Jones. I mean, that's really what she is. Bomb thrower. Let's like conspiracy theory. First of all,
Really? The female Alex Jones. I mean, if you know who Alex Jones is, leave me something in the comment. If you don't know who he is, please, I beg, look him up. Go back on, some of the videos he has is already deleted. But that name is a big deal, you know. So called in the conspiracy theory world of things of that nature. But yeah, but anywho, wow, this picture is jeez, look at this guy. Oh, oh man. Anywho, oh boy.
she should not be pardoned whatsoever. There would be no Epstein without Ghislaine Maxwell.
Of course she wants to get out of prison. That's exactly why she would ever meet with prosecutors. Sit her down, let her spew.
Sean Diddy Combs has again been denied bail as he awaits sentencing. Combs has been in jail since his arrest almost a year ago and wanted to go home on a $50 million bond.
Wow. Oh my goodness, y'all. Let me see something real quick. This is wild, man. You got to be kidding me. It's unbelievable. Sometimes I just don't believe. I don't believe my ears. I guess law and how it worked within the system. Um, it's weird at times, because certain things are just so much clarity, you know, but there's all these loops that you have to kind of go through to prove that, it is clarity to a certain extent. Like that's for me this little what the hell, what the helly. And let's get right into the video, man. Enough talking about it. I want to see what they're talking about here. Let's see. What are we talking about?
He was acquitted last month on the most serious charges of racketeering and sex trafficking, but convicted of 2 counts related to prostitution. Both could land him with hefty jail terms, but members of his inner circle are hoping that President Trump will cut them short. Diddy and Trump exchanged mutual declarations of friendship long before the legal case, and the president was reportedly giving serious consideration to a pardon. But Trump now says that Diddy's criticism of his first presidency has made things more complicated. Well, Nicole Westmoreland was a leading member of Diddy's all-star defense team, which delivered what Trump called a sort of victory in court, and she joins me now. Welcome to Uncensored.
Have you ever wondered what would happen if you actually sat down and talked with missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day?
Thank you for having me. How are you?
Oh, very good. I just wondered where you think you are in terms of what is going to happen in October with the sentencing. Because obviously, potentially, Sean Diddy Combs could face a significant period of time in prison. Are you anticipating that, or are you anticipating a more lenient sentence, or are you anticipating that President Trump may still intervene and issue a full pardon?
Well, we anticipate that on October 3rd, hopefully he'll be coming home.
But in terms of he wouldn't get a prison sentence at all?
We do not think that he should spend another day in jail. Not at all.
But he has been convicted of crimes. People will say, well, why shouldn't he go to jail?
Well, you know, I think that the Mann Act was not meant to cover this type of behavior, number one, and that I think you'll find out very shortly that there is no one that we've been able to locate or identify, no case where someone is in jail for the same behavior as Mr. Combs. And so that's not fair, and that's not right.
Wait, what?
Is that actually right, that nobody that you've been able to find has ever been sent to prison for the things that he's been convicted of?
Huh? All right.
Listen, we've looked long and hard. As you know, the judge sent us on a mission to find cases, and that's due September 1st. But listen, we have not been able to locate a case where anyone is in jail for this type of behavior. And, you know, the DOJ policy manual doesn't even, you know, they say do not prosecute this type of behavior. So, no, we haven't been able to find an individual, not a single one.
Individual of his status that's doing that. Or
in relation to the reports, I saw you on CNN yesterday saying that there had been conversations with the Trump administration. Are you able to say who those conversations were with?
No, I'm not in the weeds on that to that extent. I'm part of the trial team, and right now we're laser focused on preparing for October 3rd.
What?
Right, but it's obviously in the remit of the President of the United States to issue a full pardon should he wish to. He's certainly given some slightly ambiguous statements, President Trump, indicating that it's not something he has completely ruled out. But he did make a point of saying that he was aware that despite their previous friendship, that Sean Combs had said some pretty negative things about Trump. I went and did some research and found what those were. In 2017, when Trump had been president in his first year of his first term, he said to the Daily Beast, to be honest, we don't really give a F about Trump because black people are in the same effed up position. And in October 2020, he told Charlemagne the God, the radio host, that white men like Trump need to be banished, and the #1 priority is to get Trump out of office. He said the real way of thinking is real dangerous. This man literally threatened the lives of us and our families about going to vote. We're in a war of love versus hate. The #1 priority is to get Trump out of office. You know, if you're Donald Trump, why, if you reread those comments, should you contemplate a potential pardon?
Right.
Because you want to do what's right and what's fair, and you're not going to let anything cloud those decision makings. And so, you know,
I tell you what. This was doing the right thing. Doing the right thing is releasing the S file. One, two. I mean, real thoroughly going through this, because I mean there are things that very much need some extensive dissecting. We can't just use 2 3 months period, or just this amount of time frame to come up with a conclusion and just have a close. I mean, it's more to it, is all I'm saying. It has to be more to it, because, man, you understand? I mean, it's just all sort of things tangling, within that. Hollywood got something on his hand right now. It's a hot seat. We just gonna watch this unfold, y'all. So let's go.
Okay, so I would say from your response that you are quite hopeful that he will get pardoned by Donald Trump.
I think being pardoned would be the right thing to do. So we're hopeful.
It would be an extraordinary thing if he is pardoned. There were many reports, as you know, before the time came for the jury verdict, that he was looking at potentially spending the rest of his life in prison. A lot of the public opinion, I think, was clouded by the horrendous video of him attacking his then girlfriend in a hotel corridor. You have spoken courageously yourself about your own experience with abuse. When you watch that video as a woman, notwithstanding the fact that you've been part of his team, what does that make you feel personally about Sean Diddy Combs in the way that he has been violent towards women?
If you want to build an app and have no idea how to code or where to start, check out Base 44. I built this daily habit.
That is wild, man. Why are they even dragging it and dragging it and dragging it and dragging this, bro? I mean, and then coming up with this sort of outcome. It's like, if he's wrong, he's wrong. If this didn't really happen, you know what I'm saying? We have to be able to kind of put that into the open, so, things can be just concrete, but nobody has much more information on this than we already see or than we know, or but there are some things that do add up, that kind of makes sense. But I mean, until things are just truthfully and sincerely, placed on the table for all to to be able to make, a sincere judgment, on the situation at hand, it's just going to be kind of everywhere. It's because right now it's just saying it's all over the place, man. Did he do it? Did he didn't do it?
Because
like,
I've spent a lot of time speaking with him, and I've spent a lot of time with him. I know that he knows that that was wrong. Bottom line, it was wrong.
So
there are no excuses.
Huh?
And I
what
appreciate
was
that he
wrong?
knows that. I feel very confident that nothing similar, anything like that, would ever happen again. And I know that it did not take him being arrested. It did not take him being indicted. It didn't take the tape coming out for him to immediately know that he was wrong, immediately be remorseful, and immediately know that he needed some help. And so all the way back then in 2016, right after that situation, Mr. Combs checked himself in and he started getting help. And so that's what I know.
Oh, he did.
And I'm happy that he started getting help and that he knew that and that he's continued to get help. And that's what I know. And that's what I appreciate, that he, you know, he was not sober. He was not sober then. And he has made a decision for himself to get his life together. And he's been doing that. And that's how, you know, that's what I know, and that's how I feel about it.
As an adult, we just got to hold ourselves accountable for our actions,
have
dude,
painted
no matter what.
a pretty
Drugs,
dark picture
liquor,
of what he
no
was
matter.
like in that period. That he was, you know, we've all read about the freak-off parties, we've read about the violence, the intimidation, and so on. Do you genuinely believe he's a reformed character? Some will say, you know, lepers don't change their spots, that if he gets out and doesn't have to face any jail time or be held accountable for the things he's been found guilty of, notwithstanding you saying there's no precedent for jailing somebody in that position. They will say that if you put it all together, you've got a guy that behaved pretty badly, who ultimately, if he walks free, will have had no actual genuine accountability. What do you say to people that have that concern?
Well, I think that we need to break that down a little bit, because what was going on and the privacy of his bedroom with his girlfriends, consensual adults, you know, I don't think we should put that in the same category. Now, is he human? Yes. Did he make some mistakes in his life? Absolutely. Is he getting help for those mistakes? Yes. And so I think that we have to look at it, you know, from that perspective, and not start, you know, to say that everything that he did, including, you know, sex with his girlfriends, was something wrong. That's their bedroom.
Do you believe
do you want the federal government in your bedroom?
Yeah, I was going to say, no, absolutely not. And do you feel that what the trial established was that actually, despite the claim of the people who were making allegations against him, that everything actually the jury determined turned out in their eyes to be consensual? It may not be everyone's cup of tea. It might not be the kind of behavior in a bedroom that some people find acceptable, but it didn't cross the line of being criminal, and it was all consensual.
Absolutely. That's why the jury found him not guilty of sex trafficking. No force, no fraud, no coercion. Those were two grown ladies. They were his girlfriends. And, you know, the jury saw straight through sex trafficking. So, yes, it was consensual, and it was not illegal what they were doing, although that may not be what everybody's doing in their bedrooms. Totally understand that. But it was not criminal.
Who is she, yo?
How significant do you think the testimony of the guy the escort who called himself the Punisher was? Because I interviewed him and I believed him. I thought he was very credible.
Who is this lady?
And he certainly painted a very different picture of what had gone on to the way Cassie Ventura had described it.
I don't know what she knows.
He made it clear that in his eyes, she was the person who organized everything, booked him, paid for it, and seemed very happy about everything, thoroughly enjoyed all their encounters over, I think, a 2-year period. I felt he was both in the court, but also in subsequent interviews, a pretty powerful advocate for your defense.
Agreed. You know, I'll tell you, I really do not know why the government called him, but glad they did. So, agree. I think he was powerful, and I think he said a lot. Yeah?
You don't know why?
I mean, the irony is he was called for the prosecution, and yet he turned out to be a powerful weapon for you guys.
Yo, I can't believe my ears, bro. You see what I mean when I say I can't believe my ears? I can't. How are you here defending this dude, but yet you are, you don't know. You have no clue. You're saying you have no clue as to why they showed up establishment. When they had a tank flowing over Diddy crib, had his sons in handcuffs, yada yada. You, you, you was clueless as to what was going on, and to this point. Because when he just asked you that question, oh my God, yo, that shit right here, boy. It's like a whole nother reality show, but in reality.
Agreed.
And these are all characters of that.
How is Sean Diddy Combs in himself now? He's been in prison for a sustained period of time. He's not been with his family. He's got a lot of kids. You know, how would you characterize his state of mind?
Wow, this is definitely the hardest situation he's ever been through in his life.
I bet.
You know, I think that he's trying to stay positive.
Mm-hmm.
He is trying
That's
to
the only
continue
way
to fight.
to be.
He's trying to be a father from jail, which is very hard and very complicated.
I believe so.
And so, you know, I think that he's doing
It's hard to do anything from
a
behind
lot of
bars.
thinking, and he's continuing to work on himself, and you know, he's still trying to be a parent and, you know, just get his life together. But this is definitely this is the hardest thing he's been through in his life, and I think that he's taking it a day at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Were you surprised that a federal judge on Monday denied the motion to allow him to be released on bail? The prosecutors argued he was a flight risk and a danger. The judge said that you guys had failed to show sufficient evidence to counter the argument that he's a flight risk. But on the danger point, there was a letter from his ex-girlfriend, Virginia Huyn, to the judge, urging his release, saying he didn't represent a danger. Were you surprised, given all that he wasn't allowed out?
You know, I think that the judge made his decision. You know, what I really take issue with is the prosecution. I take issue with the prosecution bringing this case in the first place. So I think the judge, you know, made whatever decision that he felt like he needed to. But I think that the real issue is the prosecution having this type of discretion and being able to engage in selective prosecution and targeted prosecution and you know, to have that type of power. I think that's the real issue.
I just want to play again. This is the actual clip of Donald Trump talking about the possibility of a pardon.
Uh-oh.
You know, I was very friendly with him. I got along with him great, and seemed like a nice guy. I didn't know him well. But when I ran for office, he was very hostile. He made some terrible statements. So I don't know. It's more difficult. It makes it more. I'm being honest. It makes it more difficult to do.
But more likely a no for Combs.
I would say so.
Okay.
Finally, what is your message to Donald Trump if he's watching this?
To look at the case and
You're too funny with this
make
stuff,
his decisions
man.
from there. I think that pardon him would be the right thing to do, given the history of the Man's Act. You know, if I'm not mistaken, President Trump pardoned Jack Johnson, and the Mann Act was used against him. And so, you know, if he has the opportunity to look through the case and make his decisions from there. I think looking through the case and the history of the Mann Act and where we are now, and that this type of behavior, you know, is not being prosecuted. It's not. Mr. Combs was prosecuted because he's Sean Puffy Combs. And that's just not right. And it's not fair. And he does not deserve to be where he is right now because of the Mann Act. He just doesn't deserve that. And so
Stop. Don't do that. It doesn't matter if you're rich, if you're poor, if you are up, if you're down, if you're green, if you're yellow, if you're white, if you're black, bro, if you do something that is horrible, it's horrible. If it's bad, it's bad. Doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your name is. It doesn't matter at this point in time your status code. It doesn't matter. You know what I'm saying? If it's wrong, it's wrong. That's it. So because nah, it's just okay. Let's just keep going down that rabbit hole with it. Come on.
We just like fairness. We like fairness, and I'm hopeful
Of course,
that,
everybody wants fairness.
you know, at the end of the day, that a fair outcome will come from this,
for sure,
and that somehow this will turn itself around to be something positive.
For sure.
Nicole Westmoreland, I really appreciate you coming on Uncensored. It was a very interesting interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
President Trump is also reportedly considering a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell, who's serving 20 years for facilitating Jeffrey Epstein's abuse of young girls. Maxwell was quietly moved to a low-security prison last week. Bill and Hillary Clinton have now been subpoenaed by a congressional committee investigating the Epstein files farce. And elsewhere in legal news, my interview with Candace Owens, who's facing a massive defamation suit from the Macrons, has certainly got people talking. Many think that the French president has overreached. Many say Candace is doomed. Well, joining me to discuss all of these legal issues is a panel of legal minds: a criminal defense lawyer, Mark Eiglash, the criminal attorney, Bruce Rivers, and entertainment law expert, Eric Gardner. Well, welcome to all of you. Let me start with you, Bruce Rivers, if I may, with the Diddy case. What are you anticipating is going to happen here? Do you think Trump will issue a full pardon? Should he issue a full pardon? And if not, and we get to sentencing on October the 3rd, what is the likely sentence?
Well, I don't think Trump should issue a pardon because pardons are an extraordinary remedy. However, if Trump thinks he can get something out of the pardon, he will certainly issue it if he thinks he can get something. But and I've got a pardon over my shoulder, that one of 17 that right over there. See that? That's one of 17 that Bush issued. He hardly issued any pardons. It's an extraordinary remedy.
Wow. Bro got one from the Bush administration. This right here, bro, it's a big deal. Because you got to hear, I mean, I'm just hearing the energy in his voice and how he sounds. You know what I'm saying? I don't know too much about the law and regulation here in the U.S. and whatnot when it comes to those type of things. I'm not too, familiar with, with those documents. But anyhow, we'll let him explain. Just leave it to the pro.
I think this judge has kind of foretold what's going to happen here, because I think he's going to get a guideline sentence somewhere around 50 to 60 months, somewhere in there. That's my guess. And he's already served basically half of that. But the judge is also going to consider some relevant conduct that was acquitted, and the judge can do that in this case. Now, I heard the defense lawyer. The defense in this case was pretty masterful in what they did. That's a pretty good result because the government wins most of these cases. But one of the things that she said is that on the pardon issue, well, we've looked for all kinds of cases. We've never seen a Mann Act like this ever charged out. Well, wait a second. Have you ever seen a Mann Act case with all this other relevant conduct? I bet you didn't. With thousands of bottles of baby oil, with all this other stuff going on, with all the abuse and stuff. So there's a lot more to consider than just the Mann Act by itself.
Exactly what I said. Exactly what I said.
Mark Eiglash, it's interesting to me because I think the Court of Public Opinion convicted Diddy based on the hotel corridor violent video long before they got to the actual trial for which he was facing these other charges. But in the end, the jury were not swayed by that video. They saw it, but they accepted, I think, the argument that it was not relevant to what he was charged with. What do you feel about that? I mean, do you feel that the public would tolerate a pardon from Trump, given that video that everybody saw and was horrified by? Or do you feel that they would also make the calculation the jury did, that that had nothing to do with the case, and actually the case seemed to establish that everything that went on with these women who were accusing Diddy of wrongdoing, it was all consensual.
Okay, a lot in your question. First, they would probably be upset with Trump using his cherished pardons on someone like this. You just saw the interview with Trump. He said, well, he was nice to me at first and he wasn't nice to me. When is that a criteria? Shouldn't it be the case and what this guy did? Maybe if he's nice to you later, now you're going to give a pardon? That's not what pardons should be about. Right. Secondly, the court of public opinion is very different than the court of law. The court of public opinion is free to have very strong feelings about what Diddy did. We saw from that video. That is proof beyond all doubt that he was abusive towards women. The other counts, while not necessarily proven, still showed the public that he was a monster and his behavior was abhorrent. It's entirely different whether the government could prove, and they could not, the very, very challenging RICO charge typically applied to the mafia, right? Not necessarily the Al Capones of the lube world. This was a very challenging case, and it doesn't mean that Diddy didn't do it.
It doesn't, but Eric Gardner, like I said to Nicole Westmoreland, when I interviewed the guy, I can't remember his actual name, but the Punisher, which is his working name as a male escort, I did find him extremely credible, and he did paint a very different picture to the one that Cassie Ventura was trying to paint, which was that in his estimation, everything had been completely consensual. I did feel if I'd been on that jury, hearing that guy talk about the dozen or so times he'd met up, that Diddy just sat in the corner watching as she very willingly, having booked him and paid for him, willingly engaged in sexual activity with him, and that they carried on for 2 years doing this quite happily. I think that would have been a very persuasive argument to me that this was not the way it was being portrayed. What do you think?
Well, I think that, the jury didn't necessarily declare Diddy innocent. What they did was that they declared that the prosecutors just had not made the case. And, there was a lot of criticism in the legal community because prosecutors were very aggressive on this. They overcharged Diddy stuff with trafficking and all that. So you can certainly make judgments that stuff was consensual, but I don't think that you can read the verdict as a declaration that it was all consensual. I think that there's room for interpretation.
And just to be clear, when Nicole Westmoreland said they could find no other example of anyone who'd been convicted of the charges that he was convicted of in terms of effectively prostitution across state lines, they couldn't find any evidence of anyone being sent to prison for that. Is that your understanding?
Well, I haven't researched particular that crime, but from my understanding of what she said, she was basically saying for his types of acts. So I don't know whether there's stuff that has ever been charged on freak-offs and stuff like that, and exactly she was referring to. But I do know that people have been sentenced for the Mann Act before. She herself referenced the famous example in the boxer Jack Johnson, who was pardoned. I also think that the judge is very conscious of the fact that he was charged with more crimes. He doesn't seem to be particularly aggrieving about what happened, and the fact is that it will be a deterrent effect to sentence him to jail time. The message sent to the community about this. So I do expect there to be a fairly harsh sentence here.
And what do you think that could be?
A few years. I don't think that he'll get the maximum 20, but I definitely think he'll see some jail time.
When it came time to take things to the next level, I knew that I had to make a website, and Wix was perfect for that.
That's just wild, man.
Really interesting. And just on that one point, Bruce Rivers, on that one point, what are you anticipating?
I bet he gets somewhere between 50 and 60 months. But I do take issue with two words that you just used, quite happily. I think Cassie was in this to get something from Diddy, clearly, but I don't think she did everything quite happily. I think if she didn't obey there were consequences, and we see that in the video. So
That's fair to say.
And then those are the things that the judge is going to take into account when he issues the sentence.
Yeah, Pierce, this case can't
Yeah, I mean, look, I
plausibly
think-
be analogized to what the attorney was talking about. Those in a vacuum where somebody hires a prostitute and they come across state lines, that's one thing. But in federal court, a judge can legally and should consider all the relevant facts and circumstances surrounding the offense. The judge sat through weeks of testimony and learned a lot more about what Diddy did and how it pertained to the Mann Act charges for which he was convicted. He has every right to consider that when sentencing him.
What do you think the sentence will be?
A guideline sentence. Now, the answer is, what is the guidelines? You know, the defense is arguing it's somewhere in the 2-year range. The prosecution's arguing it's somewhere in the 5 to 6 range. So the first thing that's going to happen in federal court is the judge is going to determine where does he fall within the guidelines. Prosecution, I think, is asking for a higher sentence because there were allegedly 8 victims. Good luck proving that. So that's the first thing. What are the guidelines? And I think he'll get a guideline sentence from the judge.
And if you were a betting man, what do you think will end up being the sentence?
Probably 2 to 3 years, somewhere in there, within the guidelines that the defense is representing.
2 to 3, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, let's turn to Candace Owens against the Macrons, which is a fascinating case. I can't really remember any world leader taking on a podcaster in this way. However...
I'll leave it right there. That's another one for another day. I just wanted to kind of catch a little recap on the whole, you know, Diddy situation, just to see where it was at on there. I mean, me personally, you know, anybody that's doing heinous crimes towards, you know, infant kids or the less fortunate, or anybody that is in a space where they cannot defend themselves, you know, or fend for themselves, you know, they should be dealt with according to you know, what the law demands, you know, in the court of law, pretty much. You know, more of the story is, dude, I mean, if you're gonna do the crime, you'll have to do the time. It's just that simple. I mean, you know, no hard feelings. It's just, it is what it is. I mean, with that video right there, if that was my sister, bro, I'm tripping. Like, you know what I'm saying? If that was my sis, you know what I'm saying? If that was my daughter, or like, you know what I mean, or any female that I'm related to, bro, like, I'm tripping if I see that video, the one that's circulating of what he did. It's like, you know what I mean? But whatever, you know, I don't have too much, you know, to add to that as far as that, but everything is pretty much, it's very clear, man. So, you know, you just got to kind of open your eyes, look very close, you know, and be fair. But we'll see what happens. So I'm just going to keep you guys posted on any information, any more scoop I get on this, all the way to the end of things to see where we're going to be at with the result and just see how the outcome of this is going to, you know, turn up. Anywho, I would just want to say thanks for hanging again. Don't you forget to subscribe. I want you to hit that notification button. Make sure you leave a comment. Just let me know how you feel about this whole thing, what you heard today, how you feel about it, what's your opinion on what was said. I would definitely appreciate that. But you guys, enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of your night. This is Thursday, you know what I'm saying, August 7th, and we clocking out. Thanks for hanging once again. Welcome to the Bricks family. If you just, you know, stopping by today, cool. Thanks for coming in. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button, join. This is the Truth TV, aka Tell the Truth, tell it like it is. You know what I mean? But everybody, have a blessed night. You know, stay safe, be vigilant. Make sure you keep your eyes open. Don't just fall for anything. Make sure you question when you see it. You know what I'm saying? Especially where we have things shaping up in our world now with technology and everything else. But yo, peace and love to the family, man, to the rest of the world. All right? Humbly, we out. Peace.